Hello, Falcons fans. Welcome to J Mike's Missives on YouTube. We are in the middle of the dog days of summer, and that means not a lot happening around football. Just waiting for Wrestle Falcons training camp to start here in Flowery Branch on August 1st. So, with that in mind, I'm taking some time here over the next few weeks to answer your questions. Thanks everyone for going to the atlantafalcons.com/voicesheard page, where you can ask a question, vote on the questions you like, vote down the questions you don't like, and I'll check in at various times before we start off training camp to answer some of your questions. So we're here on part 2. You can catch part 1 on the YouTube channel or on that Voices Heard page. We're going to jump right to it and ask some of the questions I couldn't get to last week. First question comes from the Falcons Ace, and he asked, my question is, has any headway been made to give us any idea who's the primary candidate to fill the other cornerback position left over from Foxworth? Has there been any word from the front office or coaching staff on what roles they envision these guys taking? I'm personally banking on Owens or Jackson. Your thoughts? Well, the front office and the coaching staff have been pretty quiet about who's going to step into that starting role, and I think mostly it's because they're not totally sure themselves. Obviously, they have some ideas, but in my conversations with defensive coordinator Brian Van Gorder back earlier in the offseason, it was very much open competition. We're going to throw everybody out there and see who comes out at both corner spots. I think it's important to note that Chris Houston isn't necessarily a lock at the corner position either. Mike Smith said earlier, really the only lock at a position, when you think about it, is probably going to be Matt Ryan at starting quarterback, and he said that with a chuckle. So there's going to be open competition at both corner spots between Chris Houston, Chevis Jackson, Christopher Owens, at the cornerback position. William Middleton you can throw in there. Von Hutchins is healthy as well coming back. So there's a lot of guys there, a lot of guys that are young but experienced in this league. You look at a guy like Brent Grimes, who Coach Smith describes as the most athletic player on the field, on the team, who can come in. He's got some starting experience. He's getting better and better each year. So open competition there. We'll see what shakes out. Next question. How does the coaching staff plan to use Lawrence Sidbury? Good question. Lawrence Sidbury is a guy who a lot of people kind of thought was going to be a raw player coming out of college. He played that at Richmond, which is a Division I AA, or former Division I AA school. I'm not sure what the NCAA calls them now, but played there against some less quality talent in terms of guys that didn't go to these big-time Division I schools, but a lot of good players have come out of those schools in the past. Rory Bierman came from a school like that in Montana. So the guys can play in the NFL at that level. So Lawrence Sidbury is going to be a guy the coaching staff is really going to work with. I don't see them throwing him out into the fire right away unless injury requires it, that he's going to have to get a whole lot of snaps. But he's a very smart pass rusher, very smart run defender. He really likes to break down his opponents and take a cerebral approach to the defensive end position. So I think the team's looking to see how he develops, maybe see him some specific situational things as a pass rusher and a guy who can really go into that defensive line rotation as a two-way defensive end, can stop the run, can rush the passer, and that's going to be important in terms of keeping guys fresh moving through the season. Questions I answered before. We'll go down a little further on the list. Which rookies do you feel have stood out more than others? Well, the one in my mind that's really stood out, mostly because he's the first-round pick, is Parade Jerry. He's a very big guy, a lot bigger than his size may indicate, and a very strong player, and that's obvious even without pads. So Jerry has stood out early on, and also Christopher Owens has really shown that he's got all the physical tools to be a good cornerback in this league. Obviously, he came from a smaller school as well, San Jose State, really looking to show something. But his speed, and he's a pretty aggressive tackler. Obviously, no tackling, but you can tell by the way he approaches the ball that he can lay some pretty big hits. So Christopher Owens has stood out as well, and I think fans are going to be excited to see him work at cornerback at that competition we talked of earlier. Next question comes from Jake. Matt seems to do a lot of checkoffs, especially for a rookie. What is the mental process, and how successful were his checkoff decisions last year? That's a great question. Something I talked to Mike Mularkey about earlier this offseason is how quickly Matt Ryan picked up the team's offense. And Coach Mularkey told me that in Week 1 last year against Detroit, rookie quarterback, the team came in with more checks and audibles in its system than any other quarterback he's worked with. So that just shows you how well Matt Ryan picked up the offense. Now, I don't have numbers in front of me of how many times Matt Ryan checked off the line, and it's kind of hard to keep up with because sometimes, like Peyton Manning and others, it could be a false audible. There's different things. So unless you're on the field, you don't know if the play has actually changed. I will, however, when the coaches get back in, go down and talk to some of the stat guys down there, the quality control coaches who keep some stuff like that, and see if I can get a number. But I don't remember a time where Matt Ryan did back away and change the play, that the team didn't go to a quick slant to Roddy White or a handoff to Michael Turner to kind of get a good look on the defense, that it didn't go well. It was a positive play. It might not have been for a touchdown or anything like that, but it was a play that went in the right direction. Good question. Keep on going down through here. Does the addition of Tony Gonzalez, mean a decrease in Harry's role, or will the 3 wide receiver set be used just as much? I can't tell you how much the set's going to be used, but I said right away that 2 guys who are going to benefit from Tony Gonzalez are going to be Jarius Norwood and Harry Douglas. And the reason being because they're fast and they like to work the middle of the field. You want your slot receiver to be able to go over the middle and make a big play down the field after the catch, and you want Jarius Norwood a change of pace back to have as much room between the tackles that he can once he gets into open space and he can make a run for the end zone. So when you have Tony Gonzalez, a guy who's going to stretch the field vertically and pull a safety out of the box, that's going to open up some things for Harry Douglas and Michael Turner and Jarius Norwood for that matter as well. So everybody's numbers may take a dip, but I think the whole addition is going to be very interesting to see. And Harry Douglas is a guy who I think will benefit. And keep an eye on him as a punt returner as well. That's really where the team can get some big plays from him. Moving right along. Could Chris Owens and William Middleton both be starting jobs at cornerback, and why haven't they signed Peray Jerry yet? Well, Christopher Owens and William Middleton, yes, they could be starters because everybody's going to compete to see what may happen. And I've seen rookie corners start in this league before. In Denver back in 2005, you had Dominique Foxworth and Darren Williams, the late Darren Williams, who started as rookies. And that was one of the first times in NFL history in a long time that 2 rookie corners had started for a stretch like those 2 did. So teams in the NFL aren't shy from throwing a rookie corner out there. It's just kind of a risk-reward thing where you know they're going to get beat. They've got some learning curves. They're going to have to see some things a little differently than they did in college. And at that position especially, things move a whole lot faster than they did in college. So they both will have a chance. I think it'll be interesting to see both of them on the field at the same time because you get that immediate look at what the team saw when they drafted them. In terms of Peray Jerry at the 24th pick, don't be overly concerned just yet. Not a lot of first-round guys have signed at the point where I'm recording this video. And when it comes to signing first-round picks, a lot of it has to do with slotting. What did the guy above make? What did the guy below make? How long is this deal? What's it for? How long is the deal below? And teams really just kind of jump in there, and it's a pretty organized system, believe it or not. And it's the top 5 picks that become a little interesting in terms of guys getting paid very large contracts and the like. So no concern there just yet. We've still got a lot of time. Remember, it was right before training camp where some guys signed last year. There's a very big space to work with, and the team has done a really good job so far of getting other draft picks in camp and ready to go and signed. I think we've got one more. Freeze First asked, do you think the Falcons will use the Wildcat a lot this season on offense? Also, do you think it would be a good way to work DJ Shockley, or that is, do you think his youth and athletic ability could be a decision factor as to who will be the number 2 quarterback for the Falcons? Well, the Wildcat offense, I talked to Coach Malarkey a little bit, and I put up a blog post that actually got some pretty big traction and said that that's a place where Jarius Norwood can really do well and a place the team likes to put him. Didn't say how much the team was going to use it, didn't say if the team would use it. Offensive coordinators don't really reveal a lot of secrets, but with a guy like Jarius Norwood, it's always going to be an option in the Falcons' bag of tricks to run that type of formation. More or less, I think a lot of that depends on the league as a whole. Defenses are going to be prepared for it this year, so you probably won't see a lot of it as early on in the season. You'll see different variations of it later on. In terms of getting DJ Shockley into that position, interesting point. I've seen it made a couple different times on the message boards, but if things happened exactly like they did last year and you have Matt Ryan, Chris Rem, and DJ Shockley, the number 3 quarterback cannot come into the game unless there's an injury, and if he does come into the game, there's different substitution rules that follow. So even though they dress, they can't just come in the game and go out like any other player. So the number 2 quarterback has to kind of take that role if you want to do that. Now, DJ definitely has the athletic ability, but we'll see where that shakes out in that open competition.